Hi, everybody. Welcome to yet another inspiring interview. And today's highly sensitive entrepreneur is Oraine Ramoo. Hi, Oraine. I'm so glad you're here today. Welcome. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your company?
I am a women's counseling psychologist in the country of Trinidad and Tobago. And I've been in private practice here for going into 10 years. Quite a number of my clients are also highly sensitive, so I think we're both benefiting from the work that we do.
Hmm.
And when I'm not counseling, I'm also candle making. So I'm a candle as well. I make scent and
Wow.
soy candles, and
Cool.
I've been doing that for 7 years. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love scented candles. They do so much
Yes.
for you especially as a sensitive person, because for us, our senses are highly evolved. So the smells, they do so wonderful things.
They do wonderful things, especially if you're using like really good oils for your candles, because a lot of sensitive people have allergic reactions to a lot of candles because they're not phthalate free.
Yes.
So one of the things I was able to benefit from was knowing where to get my phthalate free oils to make great candles. So a lot of my clients do not have problems with me burning them in the office. So
Oh, that
it
is
worked out.
amazing.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
worked out.
Yes. Awesome. And did you always know that this was the type of company that you wanted to have?
My counseling practice.
Yeah, but also the candle business. Did you always know that these two things were the things that you wanted to do?
This counseling, yes, as early as about 14, 16, I kind of knew that's where I wanted to go. And so when I had to plan for all my A level, O levels, A levels, and I actually studied in the US, I already knew what I wanted to do. So it was a quick, smooth, even in undergrad, I knew I wanted to work exclusively with women.
Hmm.
So that worked out really well. Trauma was a surprise. I didn't think that I would get into trauma work, but there was a private tragedy in our family, and I realized, listen, something needs to be done. So I went ahead and I got trained in the US for trauma specifically,
Hmm.
and I came back and I don't just do trauma work. I do internal family systems. I use EMDR. I use the Bach flower remedies. I use essential oils. So I have a very unique blend to work with my clients for this. The candles was more of I wanted my office to always smell nice and always have the candle lighting, but I
Hmm.
was importing in candle heavy and expensive. And one day I went online and I said, this must be easy to do. Let me go check. And I checked and I was like, that looks easy. So I bought a few small materials and I was testing them out in the office. And my clients would be like, are you selling? Are you selling? And I'm like, no, I'm not selling. I'm not selling. And after a little while, they encouraged me.
Hmm.
And now I have a full-fledged candle business. So
Wow. It grew organically by demand, I'm guessing then,
yeah,
right?
yeah, but then, it worked well because when you're doing trauma work, you need to have something that's creative, a beautiful outlet. And as
Mhm.
HSPs, we also need to, encourage our creative side. So this is actually working hand in hand very well to balance me out. So it was I don't know, kismet. Call
Yeah.
it kismet.
Sounds like it worked out perfectly for you, this
Yeah.
combination. Yeah. Amazing. Wonderful. And
hmm
were there obstacles or doubts or fears that you had to overcome before you were able to have the business that you have now?
With regard to the counseling, when I first came back, there weren't that many therapists in Trinidad. And so I was trying to reach out to people to find out, like what's going on and so on. And unfortunately, I wasn't met with a lot of people who were very supportive. I probably can count on one hand about 3 people who were really happy that somebody was here and somebody was willing to open a practice and do work and so on. And so that was one of the first things. I felt like I didn't have colleagues to interact with very much. So I was doing it alone for a really long time, and I still am. But then the candles thing, that there were no real obstacles with that. The only problem with that is I have to import in everything. Like I have to bring everything
Materials.
into the country.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a lot. But to say that anyone stopped me or there was anything in my way with that, I would say no, not at all.
That's it's one of the things that I've found to be most important is especially for your coaching practice or your counseling practice, that it's so wonderful to be able to talk with like-minded people, with people who are in the same boat as you, who are also sensitive, who are also an entrepreneur, and not just to ask business related questions too, but also personal questions and everything, just to hear them and have the support and to be able to spar or to talk things through or to give feedback, or all those types of things are really important when you are a business owner, because if you're not careful it can be lonely, especially when you
Yeah,
are a one woman, in our case, business.
business, yeah, definitely. And it so happened that when I came back here, I started to make friends slowly but surely, and I ended up making similar minded friends. Like one of my best friends is she owns her own business.
Hmm.
She turned out to be highly sensitive, and she learned that from me. And she does an organic juice business, and so we always connect. I have another friend. She moved away a bit, but she's back and forth. I'll see her next week.
Hmm.
She also owns her own business. I have another friend, she's a doctor, she owns her own business as well. So um, we're all not in the same field, but we get to talk about business and, the concerns and the things we've learned and all that sort of thing. So at least there's that support as well. And they're
Yes.
friends.
Yes, yes, it's very important. Yeah, to have friends and colleagues that you can relate to and you can talk to. Yeah. What would you say was your biggest reason for wanting to become an entrepreneur?
Um, I don't think it ever occurred to me that I wasn't supposed to work for myself. And that's because of my family, because my dad owned all his businesses. My dad had been working since he was 16.
Hmm.
So that was back in like 1946. He was 16. And he owned all his businesses up until the day he passed.
Hmm.
Um, my grandparents on his side own their own businesses. My grandparents on my mom's side own their own businesses. Most of my cousins work for themselves, whether they have hardwares or they have scrap iron or whatever they're doing. So it never really occurred to me that I was supposed to go and get a job
Hmm.
somewhere for with somebody. I always thought that, okay, I'm supposed to work for myself. So I think having that family background, um, and I don't think my parents ever said to me, oh, one day you have to go find a job. They also didn't say you have to open a business. They just never said the words, oh, you need to go get a job. I think it was more of get your qualifications. So
Yes.
there was nothing in my head. Yeah, there was nothing in my head saying, okay, well, I need to do this and I need to go and find a job with somebody. So I think sometimes in the absence of certain, I guess, bits of information,
Hmm.
we probably just head off in a different direction anyway.
Well, I think that you have an important point there, because my family, nobody is an entrepreneur. So I saw my parents struggling with the job and working for a boss. And naturally, then the assumption grows that that is your future as well. And you
Mm,
had the example of entrepreneurial parents, and that is what you got to know when you were younger. So I can
yeah.
imagine that makes you gravitate more to becoming an entrepreneur naturally, because you've already seen that example while growing up.
Correct. And my brother also works for himself. My boyfriend works for himself, but his family also own their own businesses. And I, I think a lot in this country as well, a lot of people own their own businesses. A lot of the bigger families own their own businesses.
Hmm.
But you also see smaller folks, who are branching off and, they may have a job, but they have something on the side. They either have a spa or they do baking or they do sewing or crafts or something. So um, right now, when I go to the markets to sell my candles, the people behind their own counters. When I look at them and I talk to them, I know somebody, she's an HR manager, but she owns a side company, a doctor who also has a side company, our Coast Guardsman, he has a company, coastal engineers, a lot of people have something on the side. And I just think it's part of our culture to make, to do, and to do something for yourself, even if it's in a small way.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking when I heard you tell all these things. It seems to be that in your culture, in your country, it's very normal for people to either own completely their own business or to have a small side business on the side. And in my country, that's quite different. I think most people are brought up with the idea that you have to work for a boss, and then that's the normal course of action. And also in school, you are prepared for the type of job that you want to have, for the boss you want to work, and that also dictates which courses you're going to do and which education you should choose. So it's different culture, but it's interesting to hear how it works for you. Yeah. Are there things that you would have never accomplished if you had not become an entrepreneur?
I don't think I would have continued my education the way that I did. I think if I had gotten stuck in a job, the freedom that I have would not be given to me. I think I would have been limited in what I wanted to do, getting the time off, to go and study, or even getting the time to reflect. A lot of the ideas and workshops, that level of creativity for my practice, gave me a chance to say, oh, let me go read on that or study that or try that or experience that. I think if I was working for somebody else, I wouldn't have gotten what I needed. And then I also don't think I would have been able to craft a business the way I did there. Because when I came back, I did for a very, very short while, like two whole months, I worked with somebody else. And everything I brought up, they were like, oh no, we don't believe in that. Oh no, we don't believe in meditation. No, that allows demons in. I'm like, what are you talking about? What? No, it doesn't, but okay. And you just, every time you brought up something, there were things that they would like, and then there were things that they did not like. And so I think if I had been stuck in that, I think I would have learned over the years to be less. And sometimes when you learn to be less, you get so accustomed being less that there's no thought to get out of that.
I understand what you mean. Yeah.
Say I wouldn't have grown.
And are there any other benefits that you could point out for being an entrepreneur?
I think being able to connect with like-minded people. Like, had I been working somewhere else, it's whoever they sent to me. Because I work for myself, I can determine who I want to work with. And that gives me freedom as well, because I learn from them as they learn from me. So there are places where if I talk about mindfulness and intuition and, flower remedies and so on, people will just look at me like, and then the clients who come to me, I talk about that stuff and they nod very excitedly, or if they don't know, they ask questions, but they're open. And I think that is a big piece, being able to connect with the people who fuel you in a certain way. And their fuel allows you to continue doing the things that you want to do, and you keep growing. And I just learned a new technique the other day, and my client's like, Oraine, whatever you want to do. Sure, if that's what you want to do with me, do it with me. I mean, I explain things, but they trust and they're open.
They have faith
that it's going to work.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. That's what I noticed as well.
Yeah, and that helps. I mean, no man is an island, and
No.
in this particular, with coaching and with counseling and so on, I mean, I'm not saying that we desperately need it, but we do need a little bit of validation that what we're doing is making sense and that it's helping and that people are feeling good about it. So I feel good and I feel encouraged to carry on because of people.
But you say something very important, because for highly sensitive people, the appreciation and the loving what you are doing is so much more important than the financial benefits of it. So even if you were to make a lot of money, what some people do when they're working for a boss, they have a very high salary, they make a lot of money, but they are not appreciated for who they are or for what they do, and they are still miserable. But for us, I find the same. If I am working with clients and you see them growing and you see them evolving and you see them moving past obstacles, and it's so rewarding. And they are very happy with the results they are booking. And I am very happy because they are very happy. And it motivates to keep on going. And what you're saying is right. They eventually don't really care what technique you use to help them. They just want to be helped. And that allows you to study the things that interest you, and then to find a way to incorporate that knowledge into your company again, so that you have even more ways of helping somebody. And that's one of the things that I love doing as well. And I think most HSPs have that, because we are multi-talented, we are multifaceted, and we are multi-interested. So that means that we love a lot of things. And and we want to keep on improving ourselves and fueling that knowledge, and then finding new ways of applying that to the persons that we are helping, and then seeing them grow even more. And for some people, EMDR might not work, but if you have other techniques that you can use and you're not stemmed, you can continue, you can choose something else. And that's wonderful.
Oh no, it's a joy to be able to look at people and go, okay, we can't do this. Okay, let's try this. Let's do this. And then they learn something new that they get to share with others as well. So I like sharing. I like the learning part. I like to learn, and I like my clients. I don't think I really like teaching, but I like to learn and I like to show. And then I like to see my clients tell me how they're sharing it with others.
Yes, exactly. I understand. I feel the same way. I think it's really rewarding, and I think I would not have had this if I had stayed and worked for a boss, because for a boss, they have a certain vision, and they want a certain education that goes along with that vision, and that vision doesn't necessarily have to be yours. So you can end up having to learn things that are not really interesting to you, or that you are not really grasping when you're studying it. And when you are an entrepreneur, the sky is the limit. You can really do anything you wanted to, when and if you feel that you want to do it.
But the nice thing too about being an entrepreneur is that even the things you do privately for yourself, your own self-care, your own hobbies, your own stuff, I think even that is information that you can use with your clients as well. Because I have this, I'll show it to you. I have a subscription to this magazine. It's called Mindful Magazine. Right, so I have this, and this is my personal subscription. This is mine, and when I'm done, I put them out in the office. And clients, I sometimes come and I see them and they're reading, and they're like, "Oh my God, where did you get this? This is an amazing thing." And it's like, "Oh," and then we start talking about that. Or I learned to make pasta the other day. I love pasta. This explains many things in my life. And I learned to make pasta. And then I can talk to clients a little bit about the process, and they're curious. And then sometimes they tend to go and read up a little bit, and then they learn little things on their own, and they're curious. And so you don't know what you bring in from your personal life into your professional life that can actually help another person. I
think most things
how much
help.
of that you're allowed.
Yeah,
I don't know how much of that is allowed in in another workplace.
I don't think it works that way when you're working for a boss, but with
Right.
your own company, you are your company. So
Mhm.
how well you are doing is also how well your company is doing. And I've
Mhm.
also found that in order to have a better business, I needed to improve myself and
Yeah.
personally gained from that knowledge as well. And it goes the other way as well, that I had personal blockages that I worked on, that I got better at, that I got new knowledge about, or maybe new therapy, and then I use that knowledge to help people in my practice that are going through the same process but are a couple of years behind me. And then I am
Yeah.
able, because I went through that process, I'm able to help others in a similar situation, which is also amazing. So also my personal growth is tied in with having a company, and I'm doubting if I would have grown this much had I stayed working for a boss.
Right. I don't think you can. I
No,
don't
I
think
don't
you can
think so
grow
either.
if you do. Yeah.
No. And what I also noticed, I had it myself, and I spoke to it about this with all the entrepreneurs, but every single one of us, and I'm curious if you recognize the same, we all suffered at one point of another from the "I am not good enough" syndrome. Do you recognize
Mhm.
that?
I think that's kind of one of the things that made me push to study more. It's not, I just don't think that, hmm, am I not good enough? I wonder if I ever suffered from that. I,
And that you're having doubts about yourself, or doubts about your abilities, or doubts about if you
you
can
know
pull
what,
it off.
maybe the abilities in the beginning, because in counseling, most of the times you're not trained to actually help someone with depression or with suicidal ideation. You get your, your research and statistics and group work, and that's it.
Hmm.
And so then I had to sit down and look at the people who were coming to me. And I had panic moments where I thought to myself, oh my God, I need to go and learn how to deal with this or this or this in order to build up my confidence to do
Yes.
something else. So I would say yes, there were moments of doubt in my ability, my capability to help, because I didn't think I had enough knowledge or
Hmm.
information and
Yes.
resources to help me the way I needed to be helped.
Hmm.
You have you're a little more centered. You have a greater sense of what you have and the resources, and you're also free to say, you know what. One of the things I think entrepreneurs, HSPs, everybody needs to learn to do is say, I don't know, very gracefully.
Hmm.
That, nothing,
There's no
I don't
shame in
know.
admitting that you
There's
don't
no
have any
shame.
knowledge.
Right. And I always tell people the way you say, I don't know, has a lot to do with how people perceive you. So I
Hmm.
will say, you know what? I don't know. I can talk to someone, I can check, I can ask, and that looks way better than I don't know. And you put your head down and like you're scared. You have to know how to say I don't know with
Yes.
so much confidence that other people are like, oh, good, yeah, I don't know either. It's okay.
Exactly.
I think
Yeah.
that's a big trick. That's a big piece
Yes.
to be
Yes.
able to do.
What I also sometimes say is, I don't know, but I'm going to find out.
Going to find out. Yeah. Let
If
me look into that.
Yes, exactly. And then they say, "Oh, thank you." And they are very happy that you take the time to find things out. So it's not that
Yeah.
everybody expects you to know everything, but we
Mhm.
are often very strict for ourselves. And then we think, yeah, but
Yes.
you are the therapist one. You are the one that's supposed to know it all. So they think it's not doable or not accepted to say that you don't know stuff. But my experience is that nobody expects you to know everything.
Correct. Correct. Exactly.
Yeah.
But at least do they also know that we're supposed to be better equipped to find the better answers. That's the other thing. We're better equipped. And you're not just going to Google it and look at the first thing you get on Google. We know how to research to find the right information to
Yes.
convey to them as well. So I think that's part of the expertise they're looking for, the ability for us to pull the right information for them.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. And they often just don't. What I found is that they often just they want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged in the thing that they are going through, and they want to be supported. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's the basics of what they want. And I think we as HSPs are amazingly suited to give that, because we also
Right.
are very intuitive and empathic, so we also hear the things that they are not saying, and we can
Not
read
saying,
between the
yeah.
lines, and that's also a big benefit, and especially
Yeah.
coaching, I found.
Okay. Mhm. No, it has its benefit. The minute somebody walks in, you can tell when something just went awry, and you're okay. And you know what they need, you know what to do to help them feel okay and settled. But I think when we as HSPs learn as many tools as we can about our own selves, we are able to very authentically and genuinely share those with the
Yes.
people around us. And we say it with more. It's one thing to tell somebody, oh, well, maybe you should meditate. Maybe you should go home and meditate.
Yes.
But I think a lot of HSPs know how to meditate. So we know where, you can fail, where there are points of joy and points of low and points of confusion and frustration. It's the same thing with anything else that we know to do. We can talk with a certain level of authenticity about, the pros and the cons of it. And I
Hmm.
think people
Definitely.
are willing to hear about about that. I find a lot of HSPs are very interested in more like natural approaches and healthy approaches, and so many modalities. Like I'm a member for an HSP group online, and the number of modalities that people use to help themselves is almost mind blowing.
Hmm. Yes.
You learn something every day.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
That's where the support comes in again. Even if you don't have the support around you, the internet has made it easy to find like-minded support
Yes.
to help. So yeah, when we're really not as alone as we think sometimes we might be.
Yes, and that's a thing that can be very current for an HSP, because only 20% of the world is highly sensitive, but it means that 80% of the world is not highly sensitive, and it can cause us to feel like we're weird or strange, or that there's
Hmm.
something wrong with you, and that you are alone in this world, and that nobody is like you. And that's not true. That 20% of the total world population is highly sensitive, so they are like you, and the internet allows you to be able to better connect with them when they are
Yeah.
further away.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's really
Right.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
And what you're doing with the entrepreneurs is even more amazing, because of the 20% of us who are HSP, how many of that 20% are entrepreneurs?
Yeah, that,
And I wonder if we're more prone, we would be better suited for entrepreneurship than working in company. I mean, you'd have to be working for a really amazing company in
mhm,
order to get your needs met accordingly. So how
exactly.
many HSPs doubt that they could be an entrepreneur
Oh, a
or a
lot.
successful one,
Yes.
or a successful one based on our needs and what we have to do, especially since a lot of HSPs end up in helping professions anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What I've seen in my practice over the last couple of years is that as an entrepreneur, you have the ability to mold your company around the person that you are. So, for instance, I am an evening person. So, I don't want to have appointments really early in the morning, because that's not my best time. I use the mornings to do my meditations and to do my readings and to do my morning ritual and to make sure that I am ready for the day and my protection, and to feel good. And then in the afternoon, I started working with clients, and sometimes even in the evening. And that's a rhythm that works really well for me. But if you are a morning person, you
Right.
have the ability to have clients really early in the morning and then give yourself the afternoon or the evening off. And that's also part of the freedom that you have as an entrepreneur that you don't have when you are an employee. And the same goes for the freedom to be able to determine what you want to work on and with whom you want to work, because for the
Yeah.
boss, they have a certain vision and you are an employee, so you just have to do it. And if he appoints you a colleague that you don't like, but you have to work with them, then you have to work with them because that's what the boss says. Do you maybe have another message for them if they are considering becoming an entrepreneur but are still scared?
What would I say to them? One of the things that I would always tell, especially HSPs, because we like this. Hold on a second. It's gonna, don't laugh at me. You're gonna laugh at me. It's not funny. It's not funny. I would say get a lot of notebooks. Get a lot of notebooks. And there's a reason why I'm saying that. It's not because I like pretty things. I do. The way I started was I would always have a notebook next to me. And it's upside down, but you would know that. I always had one of these next to me. And I'd probably be watching TV, or I'd be walking around, or I went out or something. And I would just start jotting things down. This is a candle thing. And making notes of things I needed to research or think about and so on. And the minute you have things written down and you start planning, I have planner pages by the week where I haven't been using this yet. And I list things down. The minute you start breaking up things a little bit, it begins to feel like it's more doable. The more you break it down, the more you write it down. You take your hands and you write concrete. Don't put it on the notes section of your phone. Write it down in a notebook. And that starts making it feel more real. It starts to feel less like something you can't do. Then by the time you start doing a little bit of research and talking and so on, you realize, wait a minute, this might be, I can handle this. The more you do that, I think the less fear there is.
Mm-hmm. I actually do the same. This is my notebook, but I have a lot of them. And here, that's in mirror thing, I think, but this is where I wrote down how my program should look. And I use pages like this one for planning my week. So this is a really good tip. It's what I am doing as well. And I write down all the ideas that I'm having, or other things that I would like to research, planning my week, planning my month, writing down my goals. I even wrote down my morning routine, my evening routine. And that's something that really, really helps me as well. So thank you, Oraine. That's a really, really good tip. I also talked with you before we started this interview, and you told me that you wanted to give something to the viewers of this interview today. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So one of the things that I teach my clients is guided meditation, just a simple, gentle form of guided meditation, because they're learning about mindfulness, about themselves, bring down the heart rate, blood pressure, and everything. So I have a number of meditations that I have created myself. And so that's what I'll be giving away, one of my meditations where I'm guiding you through a place, a location, and you get a chance to sit there and relax in that space. And when you come out of it, you're feeling much more at peace and much more at ease with yourself. So that's what I'm giving away.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. And how can they acquire your meditation? Do they need to email you, or can they go to your website?
Well, we can put the link down, so the link will be connected to my website, and they can just download it off of there. That's it.
Awesome. So if you're watching this today and you found Oraine as inspiring as I did, and you want to acquire her guided meditations, then just click on the link below this video and request your copy of her guided meditations. Thank you, Oraine.
It'll be wonderful.
Wonderful, yes.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody who listened and partook in the entire series. Thank you so much, Barbara, for having it and for having me. I love doing this. I love doing this with you. Thank you so much.
Good. I loved having you here as well, so it was my pleasure. Thank you. and
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.